ag commodities weaken after the war slows down, and yet there's no confirmation that China would increase purchases from the United States. Jerry Giddel is ready to analyze all of that and more right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So, Jerry, we have had a week where everybody was expecting some details of an announcement that was done on Monday of $17 billion purchase in agriculture products by China without any specifics on whether they will buy corn, soybeans, cattle, or manufactured food, processed food. So I think that was the reason on why the markets have weakened along the week.
Oh, I think you're exactly right. We did have this kind of surprising announcement that came out a couple days after uh, Trump returned. Now you get confused and get going to Asia and what month, day of the week you're at, and all that kind of stuff coming back. But the Saturday afternoon announcements coming out of Washington about this additional trade agreement between the U.S. and China for 17 billion, which includes some other things that haven't been involved here. We just had the soybeans 25 million metric ton deal, which was interesting. Also, confirmed here over their trade missions uh, in China from Russia by President Trump. But interestingly enough. China just does not tend to uh, talk about these agreements. The last two or three, they eventually come through, but they weren't touted. Now, maybe that was the reason why they didn't make the announcement when they were together in China. Who knows? Uh, at this point, I would sense that the deals are there, but it doesn't mean that the China was going to end up buying anything directly right away. And that's in the past they've done that just as a confirmation that that the deal was happening or was going to actually commence and that. And so that's definitely a reason why this market's been choppy. Also, the U.S. weather. There was some rains in the Southwest. I don't think they were in the major producing areas of Texas, Panhandle, or out in western Kansas and things like that. But the rain was around, and so you put the two together, and things have been a little sluggish at the end of the week. At this point, the markets are still, like you say, looking for more confirmations about deals, but I kind of feel like that we're going to have to see the focus on the current negotiations between Iran and the U.S. as our next kind of market news to look at.
Yeah, on one hand, we are having this war that's slowing down. I don't think there will be major strikes at this point, but also the weather in the United States has been erratic, to say the least, and I think that we are going to have an impact on the corn crop as we need more rain in the Midwest.
Oh, I tend to agree with you. There's sections of the Eastern Corn Belt that's been erratic, and then, boy, the Dakotas and Kansas, even Nebraska's tricky. There's certain areas that have irrigation, while other areas depend on rain. And but in general, here, the U.S. growing season uh, has its issues and that, but the one thing that always seems to happen here in the mindset of U.S. Crop conditions uh, is that once you get the crop in the ground, which usually happens here after Memorial Day. Now, that's the tricky part in here too. This year's Memorial Day is as early as it can be in the calendar. It has to, it needs to be a Monday officially. Uh, and so there's no Monday in this year's May, so we have it this weekend, which is kind of messes people's thinking up about where the crop should be and progress and stuff like that. Instead of having it on the 31st, it's on the 24th or 25th, I guess it is, from there. So that being said, the between there and the 4th of July, once the crop gets in the ground, and it's I don't know that this year's progress has been good in some areas and not so good in other areas on uh, plantings and things like that. As I said, the plains areas have been reduced or have been not progressing well because of the dryness, while Illinois and Indiana, parts of Iowa have been ahead of schedule. And so the overall average is doing well, but it's spotty out there for the U.S. So you're exactly right. There's going to be some concerns, but unfortunately, once they don't really become a huge factor until we get later in the season. So that's another reason why recently we've been kind of promoting sales on these rallies, primarily because it's so traditionally dull during the month of June on U.S. crop condition situations. But that's why you figure out uh, what normally happens, and that's kind of what we're dealing with in front of us. So the situation, and also uh, any details, further details that might come about the Chinese trade deals will be important as we go forward here. I think there still is a lot of uncertainty here, so I don't know that this market's just going to collapse. And that even after we do get this so-called maybe a truce or whatever going on here, the markets are still going to be quite nervous about world purchases and world conditions. Because the other tricky thing that's happened here longer term is that El Nino's definitely heating up, and there's some talk of being a super one. I'm not sure what that means. The dynamics of the conditions in Australia and Argentina and other places in the world where El Ninos have a big impact could even be more dynamic. But right now, at least, those are some of the background things that this market continues to have to deal with.
Yeah, so on the wheat side of things, we also had the announcement that the Argentinian government is cutting the taxes, the export taxes, in 2 percentage points, specifically for wheat and barley. But I think that does not make any changes when it comes to supply at this point.
Oh yeah, 2% doesn't really shake anybody up. Previously, over the years here, the Argentinians have decided to have drop all their export taxes, soybeans, corn, wheat, the whole nine yards, sell a whole bunch of stuff and then put it back on. From there, that didn't happen. They approached it. They're still keeping their bean export taxes out until they start to come down in 2027. So that's 6 or 8 months from now. So that's a uh, and but it's a psychological thing. I think the the interesting thing about it is that what has also happened in the uh, excuse me, for the Buenos Aires Exchange, that they have continued to be optimistic about their production numbers for corn this year. And uh, well, the U.S. number, I think, officially from is 56 million from the USDA. Argentina was at 61 million metric tons for their projections for the current corn crop, and I think they moved it up to 64 on their latest update. So they're going to be strong competition in the export markets, and probably to one of the to China there. The one thing China and Australia, Argentina, those had some real issues on shipments of things, and getting over there and the moisture content being too high and things like that. Same thing with Brazil. Both those countries do not have very good drying facilities in their export channels, and so if it comes in uh, at or above slightly the desired number two values out there for moisture and quality, uh, they don't know what to do with, so they just send it in the ship. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't work when you go to China. They don't have any abilities either, and on top of it, they store so much of that stuff that they're very gun shy about putting it in, and then watching the crop they just got imported turning into mush. So I think that that's going to be an interesting issue here from the standpoint of how Argentina makes sure they can send quality supplies and exports to China here in the coming year.
Yes, so and what do you think, given that you think that Argentina will become more competitive? I talked to Terry Riley yesterday, and I think he thinks that the market will shift to Argentina for corn. So you think it's a good window to sell right now, corn?
From the standpoint of U.S. whole crop corn, uh, uh, I've been pushing it up there, and I would definitely be up in that 85, 90% sold on old crop corn scenario at this point. Uh, Combination of that stronger competition from Argentina and also just uh, the lack of concern here about the upcoming crop. The one thing that I think is going to be positive for us later in June, after the June uh, update on U.S. corn planting, is that there's still a lot of people, myself included, that thinks that the corn, uh, excuse me, the U.S. corn plantings that were out in March are going to likely end up being um, at least a million and maybe a million and a half lower, which is uh, definitely a significant factor. If you're talking about, 180 bushel yield times 1 to 1.5 million, you're talking about 200 to 250 million less production, and that's a big deal. But unfortunately, that's still a month away. So that's the other feature on this thing. So in the short term, yes, in general, I think old crop supplies, corn and soybeans, should be in that both 85, 90% level. Wheat's an interesting one. Uh, I sold a lot of wheat on this rally we had, this spring, and that I just got my nose into new crop, and I kind of feel I want to stay there because, from the standpoint that I think the conditions and out there and what the final production number on wheat could still be quite significantly lower. Uh, what is the amount of harvested acres could still take, shoot, we took off 3 million more than normal, and this year we could be more. So the wheat, I think, still has a lot of unknowns longer term in the U.S. production. So I guess I'm willing to see what the harvest results are on that one before I make any decisions.
All right, sir. We are headed into the Memorial Day. Next week we'll have a short week. Final thoughts.
Oh, I just think that you got to keep your head on a swivel here from what goes on in Washington back and forth on things. At this point, I guess I'm optimistic, slightly optimistic something might happen in the Mideast, which makes me even more cautious about prices in the short term. But at the same time, this process of getting uh, U.S. grain prices figured out after this pseudo war we've had with Iran for the last 3 months it's going to still be quite difficult to figure out longer term. There's a lot of uncertainty as to even if we have a deal, it might not last. So that's another feature everybody's on pins and needles with.
Thank you very much.
Have a good weekend.
If you made it this far, this is for you. If you want deeper insights into how agriculture, geopolitics, and global markets actually connect, subscribe to the Geopolitics Report on Substack. That's where I go beyond the headlines, breaking down the strategies, risks, and shifts shaping the global food system. Subscribe and stay ahead. Thank